Good morning, everybody. I should say bonjour. Welcome to this morning's track. I'm Michael Bürgi. I'm the Director of Editorial Partnerships with Adweek. And Adweek is really excited to be working with the programmers behind MIPTV this year. We put together this track on branded content, which I presume all of you are here because you know something about it or you want to know more about it. Well, we've got three sessions this morning. Our first one here is Video is the New Black, which is going to be touching on two really great examples from different parts of the world on branded content. Very different iterations, and I think you're going to be pretty excited by what you hear about both of them. Before I get to that, though, just one quick house ad for Adweek. And I'm a complete idiot because I came up here not remembering the actual URL, but Adweek is doing a competition called the Watch Awards. So if you're in the video content game, digital video content game, you may want to go check out at Adweek or just Google Adweek Watch Awards. It's a competition basically trying to celebrate the best in digital video content. And I think that competition is running kind of into the middle of May. So there's still time to enter. We've got a great lineup of judges. So Adweek Watch Awards. So without further ado, I'd like to get started this morning. And our first video that we're going to be looking at is a series from Finland. Two gentlemen from TBWA Helsinki are going to be joining me. I've got Theo and Juha, and I'm not going to try to pronounce your last names because I just don't want to screw it up. So, and they have a great series that they were involved in called Branderit. And I'd like to invite Theo and Juha from TBWA Helsinki up on stage and walk us through your example. I mean, I don't know, you want to should we just show the video right off the bat, or do you want to set it up a little bit? Okay, run the video, please. Oh, these are narrow.
This film is all about Buy This, a TV format that changed the way we see branded content and entertainment in Finland. So, stay tuned. You're about to see something that has never been done on air before. TV is living its golden age. The content is better than ever before, but the awareness of TV commercials has hit an all-time low. We wanted to give brands an active role in a great story on air by creating a sitcom that revolves entirely around advertising.
Jos me nyt puhalletaan peli poikki, niin me voidaan tehdä ehkä jopa nollatulos.
Sulle voi nollat kelvata, mutta mulle ei.
Ja tuodaan lisää lampaita settiin.
A TV show called Buy This, or Branderit in Finnish. It's a story about a fictional advertising agency that works for real clients. But here's the twist. All the ad campaigns created in the episodes will air right after the show. Get it? A fictional ad agency. Real clients with real campaigns. Oh, and David Hasselhoff.
Wow, this baby practically drives itself. And lets me do all the talking.
Jos niin haluat, David.
Kiitos!
We got 10 famous brands to play a role in the episodes, and because they were part of the story, brands had the opportunity to create crazy campaigns which they never would have done without the show. MTV3, the biggest commercial broadcaster in the country, was so convinced of the format that they gave us their crown jewel slot, Sunday night primetime. But what's most important? The public loved it. We had already exceeded our ratings objectives by the second week, making Branderit the fourth biggest scripted show on commercial television. The commercials made news and tabloids another topic of conversation nationwide. Buy This changed the rules of TV advertising, making branded content primetime entertainment, and the participating brands very happy. But the success of Buy This doesn't stop here. The TV format is being exported around the world, turning the show into a global phenomenon.
Very cool, guys. When we met in New York a couple of weeks ago, you told me about this. I thought this is a really cool idea, and it sounds like it really worked well. So thank you for joining me, Juha and Theo. So I guess let's start off. Give me a little background about how this all came about. Who came up with the idea? How did it form? And and then eventually we'll get to kind of what were some of the obstacles.
So me and Juha had the idea 3 years ago. It was sort of a pet project. We worked on it on lunch breaks and at home and whenever we were not doing like actual work. And we tried to pitch it to a local broadcaster, but they had a good point when we came in and just excited two ad guys. We're going to do a TV show. We're going to write it. We're going to produce it. We're going to script it. We're going to star in it. And they said, look, guys, you know, we trust you to do great 30-second ads. You know, that's what TBWA, an advertising agency, does. But we're not that sure if you can do 21 minutes of comedy. Because comedy, you know, it's the king of sports. You really need to partner up with someone who knows what they're doing. And from that meeting, we just went and just scouted the market, who would be the best fit for us. And Fremantle, they just got immediately excited about it, worked with us. We created a joint pitch, really, you know, shared ideas and good energy, good sort of partnership, and then went and pitched it again, and then got a sort of green light to start working on it.
Cool. You know, a fictional ad agency, but real clients can be a strange balance, you know, because what about the, you know, if you have any clients, I presume everybody was a TBWA client that's in the show, right?
No, exactly not. In fact, what happened...
That's the interesting thing.
Yeah, what exactly happened was that, of course, we were presenting this to our own clients first, because they are our clients, but then at the end we ended up so that 3 of the clients out of 10 were our own clients and 7 were not. But fortunately, few of them are still keeping to work with us, so it was also a really good new business tool for us.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that, but the interesting thing is, you know, how do those other ad agencies feel about, you know, their clients working for a fictional agency instead of, you know, themselves? Was that a bit of an uncomfortable thing to overcome?
I would say that we are not the most popular guys at the ad world in Helsinki at the moment, but it was so done that with the hygiene wise that all the brands bought a media package from the broadcaster, so we were just delivering the assets for the broadcaster. So in that sense, they were buying a media package from MTV3, and TBWA did the advertising part, and Fremantle did the sitcom part.
Got it. So walk us through your pitch to the advertisers, because this is a very unusual thing for an advertiser to get involved in.
Well, basically what we're saying is the way we drafted out the whole model is that all the advertisers bought a media package, so everybody had a same sort of package to buy, and that package was priced in a way that it was a medium-sized campaign for them, and they would do anyway the campaign. You know, you have to promote your products, but the twist in this one was that what was included was an active role in a sitcom. Something that would link the content to the campaign and therefore boosting up the awareness of the campaign. So the way we thought about it and the way we pitched it to the client was that the show would set up the scene. The show would tell the background story of why you did this bold campaign. And then the campaign started right after the show, making the campaign sort of punchline to the joke. So we would set 21 minutes up, what was the events that led to this campaign, and then the campaign would come out. And that meant the brands could be, they could just let loose and have fun because they were part of the show.
Right.
You know, they didn't have to be all serious. They could try out things. They could do stuff that they would never done otherwise. And for us, the pitch for the clients was one of the, I would say, those meetings with the clients were the strangest meetings we've had in all of our careers, because we had a 40-slide set, and one of the meetings was, you know, in the slide 20, the CMO just jumped up and said, "Put it there! Here's money! I want to be part of it!" Because they were sort of competing, because it was new, and brands want to have new assets. Brands want to experience new stuff and share that with their clients.
And what actually happened, we got the green light to sell it in August, beginning of August, and we supported the broadcaster sales force. So we sold out all 10 episodes in less than 6 weeks.
Wow.
And in fact, what happened was the last episode was lost by 1.5 minutes.
Yeah, there was actually a competition, so they had to go and see the timestamps.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's a little extra bonus incentive there. Go ahead. You were going to say something?
I think that tells something about the selling process, is that even though there's a lot of talk about what is happening to TV, at least in our opinion, TV is living its golden age in that sense that for an ad guy to go have a meeting and talk about a TV show, you get the CEO there, you get the CMO there, because everybody loves TV. They were, I know something about TV, I want to be part of this meeting. So the meetings were really easy to book for us.
Yeah.
And we had 47 meetings in less than 6 weeks, and which is good for us also to promote the TBWA disruptive thinking in that sense that we believe that everything between a brand and a consumer is media, and in this case we wanted to turn the TV show as being a part of a media package.
That's a very smart approach. I hope you guys both got big raises. Sounds like it worked really well. Talk about how it worked for the network that carried it, and how those discussions went. And you know, did you meet the ratings that you were excited? I think I saw on your reel there that ratings exceeded the goals. So talk a little bit about that.
The show did good in Finland. Of course, it's always the question of it's a new show, so there's always room for improvement. But it did good, and as you could see in the clip, we also made a lot of headlines. We got a lot of earned media, especially when David Hasselhoff. I know not all of the markets see him as a huge idol, but in Finland he's God. Or right next to him, the chauffeur.
Understandably,
or God,
of course,
yeah. So any Germans in the house, you know what I'm talking about. But once he came in, it was amazing. Like everything he did, the press just went wild about it. So the whole package was such a sort of media pleaser, because you had the earned media, then you have the scripted show, and you have the ratings, and so we think that the whole package was really nice.
And I think the one thing you need to bear in mind is that brands have a lot of more assets than just money to support their show. So the brands were really eager to support their own episodes. They are a little bit competing who's going to have the best ratings, because they had in one episode the active role, but of course there were some addition to that, there were product placement and those kind of things. So the ad agency surprisingly drove Nissans and so on. So, but they were competing, they were pushing our message to their media channels, social media and so on. And what we learned there is that in our case, in Finland, we have 5.3 million people living in Finland, but those 10 brands had 1.3 million Facebook likes. So we got 30% of the whole Finnish population. And when we gave them some material to boost the show, they were eager to boost it. So in that sense, we created a new marketing channel for the show also.
That's a pretty smart idea to get them, involved in that sense. And I assume it ultimately helped lift ratings as it went along.
Yeah, well, as said, TV is still sexy. Brands want to be involved, and
well,
they
especially
want
when the Hoff is involved.
Well, especially with the Hoff, you can't deny that.
Where does the show stand in terms of possibly returning for a second season? Are you hoping to do another season? Are there enough advertisers that might want to come back? Talk a little bit about kind of the plans from here.
Well, currently we're working with Fremantle to come up the idea how to develop the show for the second season, if that's going to happen. Because we want to also, do something new, and working with the broadcaster, maybe come up with new ideas and how to maybe use the digital more, and how the show can evolve. Because although it was sort of groundbreaking, it's not an excuse to stop innovating. You can just push the envelope, and maybe we'll come up with a new and better version of it.
Okay, so it's not just drop the mic and walk off stage.
No.
And don't do that here either. That's
I noticed these are expensive mics.
Very nice. if the show ends up getting legs, as I think you just referred to, if the show ends up being picked up by Fremantle and maybe licensing the content in other parts of the world, talk a little bit about some of the cultural sensitivities. You know, is this a show that could only work in Finland? Obviously, you believe not, but why not? And how much would it have to kind of change or adapt if it were to go in other regions?
We're here. It's a good song, though.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah. So we
a little ditty, you know, break things up a bit.
So pretty much why we are here is also to promote the show. We have been sitting with having meetings with Fremantle people with different markets, and we are hoping more markets to join by this family even next year already. So we're really pushing for, and we think in a way Finland is Western countries in miniature size, so it's a good place to pilot stuff in that sense. It's only 5.3 million people, but we pretty much have the same kind of attitude that in the Western world. And in that case, that I think that there will be no tape sales. I would assume. I would be a little bit surprised if there would be a tape sales exact. But the whole concept and the format, I think it's
right. It's licensing the concept and letting others do it.
The main point is creating a fictional ad agency who works for real brands.
Right.
And then you have the character descriptions, and of course in different countries there might be a little bit fine-tuning, but like Office can travel, so I think why wouldn't they buy this travel?
Yep.
I wouldn't, although I'm a Finn, I wouldn't start exporting Finnish humor in that sense. It might be a bit dark.
Oh, is Finnish humor particularly dark?
Sometimes, you know, we do live in the darkness for 9 months.
Okay.
Which is a joke in itself.
Okay, so on that funny note, I'm going to ask you guys to gently drop the mics and head back off stage because we're going to quickly discuss the next example. Then I'll have you all come back up. Thank you very much, Theo and Juha. So our next example comes from Canada. Very, very different type of branded content. This is like a 2 to 3 minute online video short series, but and a really cool twist with the sponsor that was involved. So to help walk us through that and have a quick discussion with me, please welcome Christina Jennings, with CEO Chairman of Shaftesbury, Shift 2, and Smokebomb. So please welcome Christina. So tell you what, should we just go ahead and run the clip and then we'll start talking? So go ahead and run Christina's clip, please. Thank you.
When we have to do the laundry 3 times to get it clean. So now.
Are you guys watching this commercial? Because we're not.
We never watch commercials. Why would they think we watch commercials?
I have no idea.
With so many brands vying for women's attention, how can branded content stand out? Smokebomb, Shift 2, and You by KOTEX teamed up and found an answer. Carmilla. Carmilla is a story for the digital generation, for young women 13 to 24 who don't watch TV live. Nicknamed Buffy 2015, it's a 36-episode retelling of one of literature's oldest female vampires. Told in vlog format, the show uses the YouTube aesthetic to tell a serialized story. The narrative expands beyond the series via in-world character feeds on multiple social platforms, allowing the audience to connect to and interact with the characters they've come to love. Carmilla tells the story of Laura Hollis, a freshman at Silas University investigating missing girls on campus while dealing with her less than agreeable and less than human vampire roommate. The series struck a chord with the queer community due to its representation of strong, diverse characters not seen in mainstream media.
I think that it's been a really inspiring show for the LGBT community, including myself.
It's comforting to see these characters who, you know, don't have to label their identities.
The first show that I've seen that has like lesbian characters, that it's not all about them being gay and coming out.
Carmilla also garnered media coverage and accolades from many influential media outlets, blogs, and news sites from around the world. You by KOTEX product was integrated into the storyline in an authentic way. Through product placement in the series and 5 branded spots delivered by the cast of the show, we asked the hard questions. Do vampires get their periods?
Vampires get their periods.
By forging a natural connection with our audience and through the power of strong storytelling, we amassed over 10 million views in less than 6 months and built a vibrant community who call themselves the Cream Puffs. Fans were encouraged to interact with the series through creation, which has led to countless pieces of art, comics, music videos, GIFs, and fan fiction continually pouring in. Fans have met all over the world, from the UK to Chicago to the Canadian International Television Festival. The Cream Puffs also demonstrated their love for Carmilla and You by KOTEX by igniting a Save Carmilla campaign in an attempt to secure a second season.
Hashtag Save Carmilla!
With zero paid media, Save Carmilla was tweeted 11.6 times per minute and generated 7.7 million timeline deliveries in less than 24 hours. With an overwhelming amount of audience interaction and engagement with You by KOTEX, Carmilla has demonstrated the power of branded storytelling.
I think that's just a super cool way of doing this, and for me personally, I love that this is so different from what Juha and Theo did. You know, going in traditional television, you're doing something completely different. You know, in an online world that opens up so many more opportunities. So I guess let's start off. Tell me a little bit about how this all came about.
So Shaftesbury has been in business 25 years in the television business, and probably about 18 months ago now, we decided that we really we wanted to be in the millennial space, we wanted to be in YouTube, and we didn't want to do YouTube by just putting stars in TV, you know, YouTube stars in a television show. So we set up an agency called Shift to a Partnership with a very strong brand executive in Toronto. And basically, our take was that we were going to do what I had learned for 25 years in the television business, is that people like sticky content. They like characters, and they like great storytelling. So our what we thought was a unique way of approaching this, is that we were going to go to brands and say to brands, we want to do only scripted content on YouTube. That's what we wanted to do, and we wanted to do long-running series. We didn't want to do 8-part series or 9-part series. So Carmilla was actually a 36-part scripted series with a whole bunch of additional videos that were very much brand focused. So as I say, it was about creating scripted content that brands could attach to. So the first client up was You by KOTEX. What was interesting about You by KOTEX was they were the company that was actually had the campaign for the women in the audience, which was Save Your Panties. So they were already an irreverent brand. We call them a brave brand. And we went to them and we said a couple of things. First, we're going to create this scripted content, and it's going to live on YouTube. And it's not going to live on your YouTube site, because what we were finding, and what we are still finding, is that brands are using YouTube, even though it is the second largest engine in the world, they're actually using it as a dumping ground, you know, for whatever that's miscellaneous videos they have, an interview of a CFO or CEO. And so we said to You by KOTEX, it's going to live on YouTube, and guess what? It's going to live on our YouTube channel, not yours. And secondly, we're not going to you're not going to be identified with this content until we've run 20 episodes. So the plan was we put 6 out in a gang. There's somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes per episode. So the first 6 went out, and on our YouTube channel, and every Tuesday and every Thursday night at 7 o'clock, there would be a new original episode. So we said to You by KOTEX, so there'll be no brought to you by KOTEX, there will be no conversations in the series. So we went 20 episodes. It's interesting, there are no stars in this series. There's no Green brother in the series. There's no, you know,
there's no
Hollywood
David Hasselhoff.
star. There's not. There's nobody.
No
I
offense,
mean, honestly, we did have the original vampire novella that predated Bram Stoker's Dracula, but that didn't really have a massive following in the world, to be honest. So
I'd never even heard about it. I always thought Bram Stoker was the original vampire story.
No, it wasn't actually. So we put it out for 20 episodes, and then we let the fans know that KOTEX had fully financed this series, and they went crazy. They literally went crazy. And towards the end of the run, you saw in that video, they literally started that campaign, which was to save Carmilla. We did hit the front page. It was funded by the Canadian brand. So we're a Canadian company. We have an LA office. We could have gone into it through America. We decided, you know what, let's start small. Let's get Kimberly-Clark, which is the You by KOTEX brand. So we did it through the Canadian office. Any of you in the audience which know about brands know that really Canada is a very small market in terms of advertising. We hit the front page of the Hollywood Reporter with the slogan, "Do vampires get their periods?" And the next thing you know, literally Kimberly-Clark Toronto was getting calls to say, "What the heck are you guys doing up in Canada?" So now second season has been announced. We go to camera in a couple more weeks. Now it's all fully financed by the U.S. arm of Kimberly-Clark. So I think our way into this was, and we say it in that clip, millennials aren't watching television. I'm a television company.
Yeah, I think the setup of that clip was really good because I think it's largely true. 20-somethings just, they're not digesting content the way they used to, and this seems to be a very digestible type of format.
Well,
so.
it just, as a company, you know, I mean, what am I going to go out of business as millennials continue to cut the cord and continue? So no.
Right.
And can we find another way to use YouTube, which isn't just how-to videos or makeup videos, or can we actually do scripted content? And we learned so much. I mean, we'd done so many web series as a company before, and we'd sort of lost a couple of the lessons from television, which is you have to sort of leave every episode with a what's going to happen next.
Yeah,
because if not, why do you come back? And so, and we did learn about this volume. Volume was very key. That, you know, really to build an audience, you need volume. So that's Carmilla.
That's pretty cool. What made you go? Well, how did you find the Carmilla story, and what made you think that would work? I mean, I guess we all know vampire stories are kind of a hot thing, but they were almost starting to not be hot anymore because there were so many of them. So it was a little brave for you to even go there. How'd you find it, and how'd you adapt it?
Well, inside Shaftesbury Smokebomb, we have, you know, our creative gang that are always looking for things. And we had seen, there was a series in the US called Lizzie Bennett's Diaries, which was a long-running YouTube soap. And we liked that idea of something literally that would be, in effect, a soap opera. And so when we found Carmilla, and I've forgotten, I think the 60s was the last time someone had adapted the novella. Mm-hmm. And we decided, let's update it, let's put it in a university dorm, and let's have that be a dynamic between two women. And again, it felt sort of cheeky, and it felt very much like it had the brand attributes that You by KOTEX had with their Save the Panties campaign. So that really was how it came about.
Obviously, you know, a lesbian theme, kind of very LGBT. Oh man, I'm too tired this morning.
Okay.
Sorry. That theme, was it risky? You know, what made you go there? Is that part? Because that's not part of the original story, is it?
Not really. I mean, again, I love seeing these fans who just sort of said, this is just the way it is. This isn't about coming out. We were just, and
it's just an accepted part of the storyline, right?
It just seemed like fun to have it be. In the very first episode, so there's our girl. Her roommate goes missing, and she ends up with a new roommate from hell who happens to be a vampire. And in the end, she falls in love with her. I mean, it was just something that felt very natural. We didn't set out to make an LGBT series. That wasn't the play. And I keep talking about Kimberly-Clark and You by KOTEX. They were very brave, you know. I mean, and they really let us have our way in a way with what we were doing. So, and what was wonderful is the fans of the show call themselves Cream Puffs. And the chief marketing officer down in Los Angeles for Kimberly-Clark, you know, actually literally started signing off his emails by, you know, calling himself a cream puff. Anyway, it's just, you know, and it was also, what was interesting was, you know, that clip said 10 million. We actually had 14 million views and counting, with no paid ads. There were no paid ads to get eyeballs to that series.
But it was a slow build, right? It started off a little bit small, but then grew incrementally.
It was episode 20 that somehow the fan communities in like Orphan Black and Lost Girl and some of the genre series, they found it, and that's what happened, and they shared it, and it just went.
Now, it's funny you should say episode 20, because that's when You by KOTEX first was kind of integrated into the show. Was it a tough sell to get them to wait that long? Were they eager to be more visible at the beginning?
We basically said to them, you have a really strong brand and you have no YouTube strategy. None. Yeah. You know, you haven't, so trust us here. You know, put it on our site. Don't let the fans know. Millennials will smell out in a second if they're being sold to. And you know, I saw a video once from Clearasil, I think, and in the first 30 seconds they had like a bottle of Clearasil. Well, you know that, and we learned that. I mean, I'm the old girl in the room, but the young gang back at Shaftesbury knew that if you tried to hard sell, it would be a turnoff.
Right.
So they actually went. They literally
they were cool with
trusted
that.
us.
They were fine with that.
Completely, yeah.
Okay. Is this a series that, obviously it crosses borders because it's on YouTube. It's not, you know, though it's made in Canada, it can be seen anywhere, I imagine. But is this something that you think that could be done in other parts of the world?
I suppose it could. I think of the 14 million, the largest audience is the United States, followed by Britain, followed by Canada, because it isn't geo-blocked. I mean, of course it can be, you know, it can be formatted out. I think the interesting thing is that we're a TV company now moving, and we're trying to move the ship, is that I actually think it will go to television. And I remember it was MIPCOM here.
Oh, really? It might migrate to TV?
No, really, it was MIPCOM here, and a broadcast executive came up to me and said, "What the heck is Carmilla? Like, what is it?" And that was when we only had a couple of million views. And I should have mentioned one thing, you know. The other thing that the lesson we've learned from this is brands, it's not about views anymore. It's about engagement. And when they could see the sort of fan engagement on Carmilla, that's what it was. Anyway, long and the short of it is that broadcast executive who said, "Can Carmilla move to TV?" And I said, "Of course it can." You know, we've got locked off cameras in Carmilla, but of course if you do a TV series, you go out in the world of Silas University. That's what you would do. So what came of that, which is that she said, "What's next?" And I said, "Well, we want to do a Devil Wears Prada YouTube series."
Yep.
That's what we want to do. We think there's some, you know, Maybellines of the world and Garniers of the world and some fashion labels who are really interested in exploring. So what's crazy is that broadcast executive bought our YouTube series. So I said to her, "Okay, here's the deal. It lives on our YouTube channel. It doesn't live on your .ca site, which no one really goes to find original video content anyway." And I said, "So those are the conditions. You know, we've got a brand financing it. In the case, it's our new series. It's called Ms. Labeled, and it's been up now about 3 weeks, I think. And it's been financed by Schick, the razor blade owned by Energizer. And we said to them again, these are the conditions. It lives on our YouTube channel, not yours, and it goes out in our pattern, and that's what it is." And so,
how's that tracking so far?
Oh, really, really well, like very well. I think there are about 13 episodes up now is all, and again, great response and engagement. So
okay. Before I ask Juha and Theo to come back up, talk a little bit about how, you know, what the challenge is, but also what freedoms it offers to be doing content for YouTube rather than television content. The differences between making content for television and producing producing a YouTube series. Because there's some things that are easier, but I imagine there are some challenges too.
Yeah, I mean, the budgets, as you can imagine, are a fraction. They're a drop in the bucket of what a television. I mean, these guys, I can only imagine your budgets because those production values. So when you produce for YouTube, of course, you know, it isn't like, you know, the budgets of Carmilla season 2 will be 3 or 4 times the size of that. But still, these are drops in the television bucket. But the other thing is you still go through, whether it's with a brand or whether in the case of our new series, Mislabeled, you've got, you know, you've still got scripts. So we, as I say, these are all scripted series. So you've still got scripts. So the brand wants to read the scripts. The broadcaster wants to read the scripts. So you've still got a bit of a creative process to go through. Who's going to be your lead? I mean, casting is a very key thing. It's just
There's a bit of a risk to go with unknowns.
In both series, complete unknowns. In fact, in Carmilla, those are in fact non-union actors. In Mislabeled, we wanted to bring a fashion maven in, and she happened to have an ACTRA union card, so we had to make the whole cast unionized in the case of the second series. But the one thing I think both the brand and the broadcaster in the case of Mislabeled realized is the speed at which we shoot. I mean, we're shooting 36 episodes in 4 days. You don't have a lot of time to give a whole whack of notes on rushes. And, you know, we basically have things up from once we've shot them to literally on YouTube within 2 weeks. So, again, not a lot of time for brand or network notes on cuts.
Yeah.
You just got to sort of trust us. You got to trust us. And so...
And you've gotten that trust from them, it sounds like.
So far, I mean, we're
Okay.
you know, we're working now. I mean, we're still finding everybody knows all the stats about TV revenue, you know, how much ad revenue is left television and moving to digital. We know all of those stats. We know that brands and everybody are trying to figure out what to do. It is still interesting that YouTube for brands, they've just, many of them have not figured it out. So when you go to them and say, let's do a scripted YouTube series, really, and it has to live in, you know. Anyway, it's early days and it's fun days.
But it's cool. It's certainly an interesting way of getting them to play in this world in a way that's going to be interesting to audiences and maybe resonate. So thanks, Christina. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Juha and Theo, please come on back up. Come join us. Before I get to questions for all of you, let me give you guys a first chance. If anybody has any questions for them, now that we've seen both examples, if anyone has a question, just raise your hand. I can't really see too well, but anybody? Where? Ah, yes. Just quickly introduce yourself, too, before you ask.
This is Angela Natividad. I'm working with the MIP blog. This question is actually for Christina Jennings. You mentioned earlier that millennials no longer watch television. So when you said that Carmilla would likely be transitioning to TV, how do you explain that sort of web to TV migration without, you know, like how do you do that without losing your audience?
Well, I mean, our belief is, I mean, we'll see whether it happens, is that if they found the show and they love it the way they appear to be loving it, you now move it to a platform that they maybe don't tend to watch, but they will migrate because they love those characters, and it goes back to the principles of television, that they will migrate there to see a bigger world, you know, because they're seeing, in effect, a snapshot of that world. So we'll see. I mean, now we brought on the big TV showrunner to take Carmilla to see what it would look like, and in the next couple of months we'll make the pitches. So we'll see, one, whether we sell it, and two, whether they'll follow. I think they will.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, question? Yeah, up at the top. Sorry, we'll get it. Oh, okay. Well, let's start with you first.
Hi, Roddy
So
from
we'll get to
Olive
you.
Tree. We also do branded content for the Arab world from Beirut. I was wondering about the licensing and the intellectual property, since both of you were the creators of these shows. Were you able to retain the IP? Did you share it with the client in terms of the format and of the production? Thank you.
Great question.
In the case of Buy This, it's joint ownership between TBWA and Fremantle Media.
And we own it all. And we're now, I mean, one of the things we haven't done much of as a television company is we've really not branched out into the world of merch and licensing. And we tried some experiments. I think in Carmilla we've sold like $500,000 worth of T-shirts. Like, you know, it's just,
Wow.
again, I mean, it's, and we just put them up in, like, we put up like a limited edition of 20. So again, this is our experiment into now that world, but we own all that IP, so. Sorry? The brand?
Were they okay with it?
They were fine. They were fine. Because for the brand, in the case of You by KOTEX, it was they wanted awareness and they wanted sales. And we did a survey in January, which was an unprompted survey on Facebook, or Tumblr, I think it was, and 10,500 respondents, and 34% of the respondents had gone out and bought You by KOTEX products. So Kimberly Clark could actually see that through the awareness of this series, that people were actually going out to buy their brand, buy their product.
That's
So
pretty.
they were fine. They didn't need to own the IP.
That's pretty compelling. Yeah.
I have a comment. I think that's a good question, especially since many more brands are going into branded entertainment. And my personal guess would be that in the future there will be some brands still using content as a marketing platform, but we will see more joint ownerships between the brands and the production houses, just because that's sort of like the evolution that we're heading to. But I think at this point, most of the brands, as in your case, see it as a platform to create awareness. You know, attach yourself into great content, and most of the time the brands don't have the ability to write a good scripted comedy. They don't have the know-how. So for them, it's still just a platform. But
it's also never been part of what they do. I mean, this is it's a whole new world we're talking about, where brands are in the content business. I mean,
yeah, then the content should be something of a strategic asset to the company. You know, so it would be a new product for them to sell. The shift in thinking should occur first.
I mean, one of the things we want to also try and do is, and again, early days, but if you create stars or just recognizable faces inside, say, Carmilla, you know, when we did the branded content, which was on point about tampons and sanitary napkins, whatever it was, we used the stars from the show. Well, we've always thought now you could take those stars from the show and put them on television. Again, just keep that, you know, and how, you know, just keep moving the whole sort of awareness sort of bigger and bigger.
Yeah, in our case, we saw that by this is, we like to call it a branded content platform, because it's 10 brands equally shared. And case of Carmilla, I would say it's a branded content original, because it's developed for one brand in that sense. So to your question, I would say that it's harder to keep the whole IP in the future if it's a branded content original, but it's easier if it is a platform.
If it's a platform. Good point.
Yeah.
There was a question up above. Please.
Anil Bandwari from IndianTelevision.com. You know, a few observations and questions. One, which brand categories and product categories are more amenable to creating this kind of content, branded content? One, in which have, you know, who are already very receptive, and those which are becoming receptive. And why didn't you take it further? The KOTEX, what you were doing with them, take it on to mobile. You know, in India we have levers which experimented with a missed call. So viewers could call a number and they would get a call back, and music would be played and a message from levers would be played. So they extended that into the mobile ecosystem, because we've got about 800 million mobile users in India. So, you know, take the entire thing further. If you look at 14 million views, that's only about $14,000 in revenue from YouTube. You could get more revenues out of the other plays.
Okay, so we've got two questions there. Since you just, let's go to the second question first. Repeat the question itself, because you talked a lot.
The question is that, why didn't you take it further, the strategy of engaging? Like you said, it's not about you know, views, it's about engaging. You could engage better with using the mobile route.
So I guess
none of you know about the missed call phenomenon?
It sounds like, why didn't you involve other media? So,
yeah.
It's kind of a when did you stop beating your wife question, but
yeah. No, you know, it's actually a good question. I think what we wanted to do was to try this scripted. We wanted just to try this experiment of getting a brand to attach to a scripted series on YouTube, because there wasn't a lot of that. That was our first experiment, and see if we could, you know, as they say, increase sales and awareness, which we did. So. I mean, the question of now, can we do something with that series on mobile with another partnership perhaps, is a good question, actually. And I don't have an answer, except I'll go back to the team.
Sounds like you gave her a good idea.
Yeah,
so.
no, yeah.
And secondly, which brand categories are becoming receptive, which are already really, you know, have put their hands in the mud and got their hands dirty? And which are the ones which are emerging?
I would say in that case that, of course, doing branded content, it is easier for certain brands. If you take Marvel, G.I. Joe, it is easier for them, or Lego Movie. But I think we don't have any more excuses not to do it if Chipotle, a Tex-Mex food chain, can do it. So I would say that, of course, if you are, let's say, we had a discussion with Theo yesterday about if you are a hospital, and you do a branded content show about the hospital, there might be issues you don't want to cover on that episode. Yeah. So I would say, but in my opinion, it's easier for some brands, but everybody can do it. my personal favorite is Chipotle in that sense that if they can do a Farm and Dangerous 6 episode show on Hulu about I think that shows that it's possible to everybody to do it.
Any thoughts from you on that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we want to tackle in Canada right now is we're trying to tackle the banks and millennials, you know, and we're trying to, you know, because the millennials are trying to buy their first car and their first house and have their first child. And so we're, again, coming up with some scripted ideas that aren't really on point about buying the car, but
Right.
more around, you know, lifestyle and starting to move into this new area. So, I mean, I'll be interested to see where we are a year from now in terms of who else we've got on board to be candid.
That's very interesting. I recently moderated a panel session at a banking industry conference, which it's as boring as it sounds. But the CMOs that I spoke to, it's funny, they're trying to get their message out through more kind of experiential stuff. They're sponsoring events. They're not necessarily thinking about branded content, and that topic didn't come up. But you know, just like you did with doing a series about vampires that works very well for you by KOTEX, you can find some sort of lifestyle thing that touches on what messages a bank needs to. Were there any banks in Buy This?
We didn't have any banks, but just a quick point to the question. I also think that why the brands are looking into different sort of tools of marketing, including branded entertainment, is that the TVCs no longer work as effectively as they did, because TNS just did a survey that the awareness rates are just going down. Like the last 6 years, we've lost about 20 to 30% of awareness, and still the TVCs are the most expensive tools you can have. So you expect results, and the digital world has changed all of that. Now you can do online marketing. Everything is real time. So of course brands will then turn to look to like new tools, and content seems to be it's not the hottest object right now, but I would say that in the coming like 1 year, 2 year, most of the brands are starting to experiment, and some win, some will lose, but it's going to be more often used.
Good. So let me ask each of you to answer what other branded content out there do you think is inspiring you, or that you think is really top notch? Are there any other things that you wish you had done out there? I'm asking in part because I'd love to see if there's any other parts of the world that you think are kind of doing pretty cool stuff, or any other companies.
Yeah, as mentioned earlier, I would say my favorite is Chipotle.
Right.
And of course, Red Bull is in their own class in that sense. We have been fooling around with the idea of what if they would stop selling the soda. Yeah, there's a huge energy drink. There's a huge business for Red Bull just producing the content already. So,
right.
So I would say Red Bull, Chipotle, and of course, if you take a Lego movie, I think they invested something like 60 million on a movie, which made, was it 450 million.
Yeah.
And imagine the lift on brand equity and how many plastic bricks did they sell through that movie. So, yeah, I would say Chipotle, Lego, and Red Bull.
Yeah, those are pretty good examples. Any for you, Theo?
Well, we shared the presentation deck, so he just hogged all my examples.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
you don't have to answer.
so sorry.
That's okay. What about you, Christina? Anything that inspires you out there? Or I mean, you come from very much of a television background. What inspires you out there that's being well done? It can be within television as well.
That's an interesting. Gosh, moving on to television.
No, that's okay.
No, you know what's interesting? The woman was asking. Even though millennials are cutting the cord, this is a completely crazy thing I'm about to say. I mean, like so off point. But I just look at that younger demographic, and I think about Walking Dead. And I think about the fact that appointment television still does work. for a whole bunch of the, like my daughter would not miss Walking Dead at 9 o'clock at night because she doesn't want to be out of the social conversation.
Right.
So, so even though we all say, television is changing, there are those shows you just don't want to miss, and they are a lot of them are very millennial skewed.
Likewise,
again,
Game of Thrones just premiered again. The
Game
new
of
season.
Thrones, Revenge in its day. Maybe it's come off a little bit, but Revenge had a bit of that. So as a content producer, I just go see it all just comes down to great content, great characters, great storytelling. And it doesn't really matter whether it's on YouTube or on television. If you do it right, people will find it, right? And they will come back. So, anyway, that was a digression just because I keep thinking we talk about cord cutting, but they still do.
Maybe we should just agree that the television as content is not changing. Maybe the way of broadcasting and distributing the content, that's the real shift there. Because I agree, good content, Game of Thrones, if it's on VOD or if it's like linear TV, I don't care. I just want to see it. It's not about the distribution model. It's about good content.
Yeah, and that ultimately that ultimately is what matters the most. What was the quote I heard yesterday that if content is king, context is God. So you have to make sure that I'm sorry, I think I just stole that from someone else. But, I'm sorry. So we're running out of time, but I see we have a couple more questions. Okay, let me just ask a first timer here, right here. Well, I got a lot of questions suddenly. Well. Yeah, I'm sorry, Angela, I'll get to you, but I just want to give other people who haven't had a chance to ask a question their chance first. Right there or there? Wow, got a lot of questions.
Hi, good morning. It's Cosimo Solazzo from Grindr, Italy. Compliments for the video. My question is about contents. About you, I'm not sure if scripted or unscripted, which are the best to work with brands and why brands choose scripted content or unscripted content. I mean, in your opinion, which are the best content to communicate or to integrate a brand in the content?
Well, my answer would be it's scripted. My answer would be that if you have an audience engaged in a scripted show, they'll come back week after week. And so I don't think it's sort of the factual, non-scripted how-tos necessarily. But that's me. That's been my career.
Yeah. And you think that brands prefer to work with scripted content or not?
I think it's probably easier to work with non-scripted for brands, to be candid.
And I think it depends on the brand also. Scripted is more secure in that sense that you can have a little bit more control on that. But for certain brands, non-scripted might work even better. So,
and a little later on, I'm going to be moderating another panel session at 11 o'clock where we're going to be talking about an unscripted example of branded content with Malibu Rum and Analog.
Thank you.
Sure. Question right there? Thanks.
So my question is for everybody on the panel. Do you see branded content being always created in this sort of collaborative way, or do you see it evolving into being able to retrofit to like an existing auteur's show and sort of attracting the top level creators out there?
Interesting question.
Well, of course you can retrofit, but if you look at it from the brand's point of view, the brands, because we believe that the brand should be part of the story, not just a bumper before or after, because most of the time brands have good stories to tell. If you think about, most of the brands have brand manuals that tell everything about the person, the way to communicate, the history, everything that can be used as fuel for script writing or non-scripted. But we strongly see that the brand should be involved from the very beginning. Otherwise, it's when you retrofit, it really is just a bumper sticker. Like in your case, the brand was present there. It was not announced, but it was present there. So I think that the strength comes from getting brands involved as early as possible.
We tried to treat it brands as one of the characters in the show. So have some weaknesses and strengths and play it as as one of the characters. Then it's also believable and it fits naturally in the context.
And I think you could absolutely have, if you have an auteur, a writer-director, you know, and the content they want to create aligns with the brand in terms of attributes, I think absolutely you could. You know, you could have that sort of a series brought to you by Steve Soderbergh or something. Do you know what I mean? I do, as long as it ties together with the attributes.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. There's so much great content out there, like say the next Harry Potter, that I just would see that connecting with a brand would be the next step in the evolution. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think generally you were kind of agreeing with that. Okay, we're almost out of time. Right up top there, please.
Hi, I am Timo Argilander, consultant and investor. Thanks for the great cases. There is a clear novelty factor in what you have been doing. How is your vision when, if every brand is doing this won't work anymore? How does the future look like?
Interesting. When every brand is doing this, how do you stay special? Sorry, I'm kind of mutating your question, but that's a good question. When everyone's, when everyone's special, no one's special anymore. Is that a problem?
But isn't that the the reason we're here? Everybody's competing. You know, it's the same thing that's going on in the entertainment business anyway.
Yeah.
You know, there will always be the blockbusters, and there will always be misses. There will be like the first season, and then it gets cancelled. That's
right. So even though The Walking Dead could be, you could say it's a ripoff from, Night of the Living Dead. Because they did it in a different way, it's a huge hit.
Not every advertising campaign succeeds. You know, that's the name of the game. That's why the brands, when they invest, they hope for the best, and they try to hire the best talent to succeed.
Okay, we're literally out of time, but I'm going to let you ask one. Yeah, just ask loud.
The whole project started so that we got the actual brief from the brand. So in the case of Nissan, they are launching a Nissan Qashqai. That was the brief. And then we came up with the creative idea at TBWA. And when we had the creative idea, we feed that. So our insight for this one, we would like to communicate this kind of campaign. And we feed it to the script writers. And our creatives from TBWA and Fremantle sat down and start to go creating together. Okay, what if this would happen in the show? Then the end result of the commercial would look like this. Or what if this happens and then what happened that, okay, we came up with the idea, let's compare Nissan Qashqai to KIT, Michael Knight's car, which was the most innovative car in 1983. So now Nissan Qashqai Nissan wants to be the innovation that excites. So we went, okay, let's compare those two. Wouldn't that be cool if we could actually get David Hasselhoff to play a cameo role in a series? So that all start evolving, but it needs to be a tight cooperation between the sitcom producing and the ad producing parts, creatives.
Okay. Tell you what,
exactly.
I'm going to let you continue that conversation with all of our panelists right afterwards, because you can. We have to wrap up, and you can meet them outside. There's a Meet the Speakers just outside, but we got to wrap it up now. I would like you to please thank really, really great panelists. 2 great examples. Thanks very much, guys.